Hello and welcome back to the Movie Soup channel. Today we are looking at the movie Morbius from 2022 starring Jared Leto. So this movie is shaping out to be the worst AAA superhero equalization of all time, judging by the ratings on IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. I personally tried to put off watching this movie as much as I could, originally planning to watch it at home when available. But reading and watching the reviews got me actually quite interested, so I buckled and went to an empty auditorium in a cinema near me. And as far as the spoiler-free review goes, well, it's quite simple. Don't watch it, unless to criticize it. This movie is a mess, and I wonder how did it even come together to be that bad. I don't know if the production went well, and who wrote the script, if there even was one. Anyway, let's go straight into the spoiler part of the review. The movie starts in a nice jungle setting, introducing Dr. Morbius and his lifelong hunt for the cure. He and his crew don't seem to know each other or even the purpose of their visit to this remote location, but they know how to use some fancy, unexplained high-tech device while getting paid right on the spot. Then Morbius proceeds to draw his own blood to attract the bats nesting in the cave, that proceed to fly out, seemingly hostile, forcing the crew to hide within the chopper, getting battered by the flying creatures, who also seem to ignore the fancy trap and Morbius himself. Yes, this is an accurate breakdown of the opening scene, and yes, it makes no sense, and yes, this is representative of the entire movie. The film is a shell, a picture. It looks more like an expensive concept art. It is packed with representations of good casting, decent acting, curious technologies, menacing and gruesome mutations, and depictions of ephemeral evil. Alone, most of these things would be a great tinder, sparking the flame of creativity and resulting in an interesting story. But together in this movie, some of these things end up being in conflict with one another, some are inconsistent, and some are nice. And there is nothing, absolutely nothing holding them together. For example, Morbius and his transformations. Is he supposed to be a mutant vampire, undergoing some physical change each time he turns, or is he supposed to be some sort of an embodiment of ephemeral evil? If the former is the case, then what is up with all the flying and sudden transformations at a whim, leaving no traces on his normal self, with no apparent physical cost as well? If the latter is the case, then, well, the entire movie is kinda wrong. I think this movie would have been much better off going all in with Morbius mutating over time, becoming a monster essentially, and the more he became a monster, the more his connection with the bats would develop. Also, in each good superhero movie, you get the original state of the protagonist. Let's take Tony Stark for example, and the final state where the protagonist is a superhero, Iron Man. Tony Stark starts as an arrogant, rich arms dealer, the last person you'd expect to be a hero. But over the course of a single movie, he goes through a drastic change where he first gets knocked down hard, having to find himself, fight through the new adversity, and build his new self, practically. It is not like Tony Stark became Iron Man in just 1 second. While for Morbius, the story is a bit less coherent. Having a terminal disease, surviving to become a world-renowned doctor and a Nobel Prize laureate, against all odds. But we don't get to see why is he out of options now, why is he so interested in the bats, and all his past failures in search for the cure, the internal conflict making him desperate, and we also don't get to see how his relationship with Milo developed over the years. We only get to see him attempting yet another test in a ridiculous setting, which turns out to be a success, so he proceeds to human trials on himself and turns into a nonsensical and inconsistently powerful beast in like 1 minute behind the camera. Anyway, I probably could speak for hours trying to fix this movie, and maybe one day I will, on a stream with some friends. But as far as the actual movie is concerned, what a horrible shame. Also, I'm not quite sure about Jared. It's hard to say whether he's got what it takes to headline a superhero or supervillain movie, as each time he tried, the movies turned out to be massive flops. Maybe it is just the badly written roles, but I'm not quite sure. Anyway, to wrap things up, the first equalization of Morbius turned out to be a massive, incoherent flop. I hope the studio listens to some of the feedback, learns what this movie did right, and comes back stronger, with better equalizations. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, a goodbye.